This is an informational video on mental health within law enforcement officers by Shannon Spiegelberg. Law enforcement officers need to be in good physical condition as well as mental health so they can be effective in protecting communities from crime and violence. Being a police officer can be a demanding and stressful job. This is due to the people they come into contact with as well as the dangerous and difficult situations they are put into every day. They are the first ones to be at the scene of a crime and need to be there to calm others when a crisis is taking place. This kind of stress can put a strain on their mental health. These mental health problems affect police officers' performance and job satisfaction. Police officers can end up with any one or more of these mental health issues, such as post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety, and substance abuse because of the type of work they do if it's not addressed. Substance abuse by police officers is between 20 and 30% compared to the less than 10% in the entire population. 1 in 4 police officers on the street has had a problem with either alcohol or drugs. When officers arrest drug dealers or go to overdose calls, they have easier access to drugs, which makes it harder for them to stop and easier for them to continue. They don't want to lose their job, so they are less likely to ask for help even if they want it. This shows that both the public, police officers, and the criminal justice system need to look at better ways to treat, support, and help the community when faced with people with mental illnesses that need to be helped whether they know it or not. The police have been tasked with addressing and catching people with mental illnesses, which means they have to have the proper knowledge and training on mental health issues, whether for the people they come into contact with or for themselves. This is in addition to their already normally stressful and demanding jobs. It's a never-ending cycle for police that they have to deal with daily. Police officers and any others who work with law enforcement every day see and hear troubling things each day they go to work. People may think that since this is their job, they are comfortable witnessing terrible events and dealing with hostile people, but it takes a toll on their mental well-being as well. They are average people who are protecting our communities and need treatment and resources to cope also. They deal face-to-face with mass shootings, deaths, violence, and stabbings, to name a few. They are the first to see the blood and bodies on a regular basis, which stays with them forever. While we would be running from shootings, they are the ones running towards the bullets. Police officers may be afraid to reach out for help because they're afraid of being known as someone who is weak because they struggle with mental issues. They would rather keep that information to themselves rather than seek help they need. They don't want to be negatively labeled. They're supposed to be mentally and physically capable individuals that can handle anything that comes their way. As police officers, that gun and badge are how we identify. If a supervisor takes the gun and badge away and sends the officer to a psychiatrist, they take away your identity along with it. For officers that do want to get help, there may not be resources available to them, and if there is, they might not know about them or might not be easily accessible. This leads to the issue of putting in too many hours of work and longer shifts. Police officers struggle with all types of mental illness after a single event or multiple events built up. Between May and July of 2019, there were 5 suicide deaths of police officers in New York City alone. 2 of these deaths occurred within 10 hours of each other. After this, Commissioner O'Neill sent this out to all NYPD officers, saying in part, "Before you can take care of others, it's imperative that you first take care of yourselves. Seeking help is never a sign of weakness, it's a sign of great strength." There is a higher suicide risk for police officers than the general public, more than twice as likely as someone that is not in law enforcement. According to the study, there were 19.6 suicides per 100,000 male police officers and 4.4 suicides per 100,000 female officers. This table shows that in 2019, Austin, Texas Police Department reported that about 75% more police dying by suicide than deaths caused by being killed in the line of duty. The National Alliance for Mental Illness provides information on mental illnesses for everyone, not just law enforcement. They do provide support options for fellow officers, their community, and their supervisors to assist them in noticing the signs of mental illnesses. They show the suicide rate for police officers is 4 times greater than for firemen, with almost 1 in 4 experiencing thoughts of suicide at some point in their lives. In comparison to deaths on the job, more police commit suicide. In 2017, there were an estimated 140 law enforcement suicides. Compared to the general population, law enforcement reports greater incidence of depression, PTSD, burnout, and other anxiety-related mental issues. Injuries can occur when mental health conditions among police officers aren't treated. They can cause burnout, which can result in chronic health issues as well as being physically and emotionally drained or tired. This can increase the chance of having an injury occur at work because they are overwhelmed and tired, so they are not working at their full potential, which is leaving them in a dangerous situation due to their line of duty. Another problem that may occur among police officers with mental problems is substance abuse. Those with depression or PTSD might start using alcohol or drugs to try and forget their problems rather than dealing with their problems. This could affect their judgment while they are working in a negative way, as they won't be as sharp on the job. This could lead to things that would affect their job performance, like missing work, endangering others, or having accidents while working. Mental health issues can have an impact on the judgment, injuries, and job performance of police officers. An officer's judgment and decision-making skills can be compromised by mental health issues, which can result in poor decisions and creating dangerous situations for both the officer and anyone nearby. For example, officers might make a mistake or create an environment where they can more likely get hurt due to their judgment being off. Mental health conditions can have a detrimental effect on attendance, productivity, and job satisfaction. An officer with PTSD may be angrier or impatient with coworkers or the public. They might also miss work more often because they are depressed. Harbor Grace is one of a few recovery facilities in the country that helps law enforcement officers with various problems such as depression, substance abuse, or burnouts. It also helped to outline the George Floyd murder that has increased problems within departments and causing their communities more officers to burn out. Their officer intake has tripled since 2020. Morale is down and more officers have left the police force to the lack of support from the public. With less police officers working, the ones that remain are facing long hours, which is causing burnout. EAP accessibility and usage of 80% having this service accessible, only about 20% used it. There is a need for everyone to be aware of all the possible mental health problems that the officers are suffering from and how to better support them. This is not just an issue in the United States, as the police in other countries are suffering from mental illnesses as well. There are different resources for these officers to get help, but there is either too much stigma around having a mental disorder in law enforcement, as well as not having the time or trust in someone to get what they are going through. There are differences in the mental health issues among police officers in the United States compared to other countries. Some studies show that American police officers have a higher likelihood of developing mental health conditions like depression, PTSD, and substance abuse than officers do in other nations. There are also differences on the stigmas of having mental health issues. The stigma with mental health disorders in police careers is still very strong in the United States, which can make it harder for them to get help. In the United Kingdom, they are trying to more reduce the stigma associated with mental health and to have officers looking to get help. On the opposite side, there are similarities that are associated with mental health issues across the world. Police officers in other countries are more likely than the average population to experience mental health problems like depression, PTSD, and substance misuse. Police officers around the world deal with a lot more stress on the job, like violence, trauma, and having to make quick judgment calls under pressure. The more types of stress and traumatic events you deal with, it only makes sense you are more likely to have symptoms of mental health issues. In Australia, by the time one officer realized that he was struggling with PTSD from horrific scenes, he was told to get out of his job and find a new career path. This officer, whose wife is also an officer, said that she was just the first to notice his changes and struggles. After talking to him about it, he decided he was going to see someone, and the doctor agreed that it was too much of a toll on his life already and he needed to get away from it. There are welfare programs, peer support, well-being checks, and 24/7 access to psychological first aid. However, they don't seem to have the time or the idea to go to these and get the support. This officer feels that there needs to be a better, more proactive approach for other officers. Beyond Blue is a program that puts together surveys and collects information regarding mental health within first responders and how they are affected by what they witnessed on the job. These responders are twice as likely to experience higher rates of psychological distress compared to the general population. Lots of information from law enforcement found different ways to help them. They created a program with different agencies to assist in the well-being and mental health of police and other emergency services. They made this guide to develop strategies for departments. Creating this program can help give police officers better hope that there are people who understand what they're experiencing on the job and how others have been impacted. Taking care of police officers' mental health issues is needed so law enforcement will be able to operate successfully. The constant danger and stress officers face can cause mental health problems like depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder. These mental health issues don't only affect the police officers but can also affect their families, other officers, and even the communities they are protecting. Police departments need to create better mental health and wellness programs for their officers to help them deal with stress and traumatic events, including therapy, counseling, and support from other officers so they won't be afraid to reach out and get help. These law enforcement agencies will benefit from helping their officers with mental health issues so they will be able to serve the communities with greater success.